Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 177th live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I am your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's episode, we have another community creation coming from Desmar Sama. We have the Mothkin, a new playable species that I'm really interested to see just based on the name itself. I'm really hoping it's a anthropomorphized version of a giant moth. I don't know why, but I just kind of want that in a playable race. So join us as we figure out exactly what this is and what it can do. All right, boom, and look at that. I forgot about the new layout. I am so excited about this new layout. I like it.
This is good shit.
I like it.
This is good shit. We out here vibing, man. Like, this is the business.
I don't know. Is it just me or does it feel laggy? Or is it just me? Maybe it's just my side. For some reason, it felt a little.
I think it's pretty clear so far for me.
All right, maybe it's just because I have a distorted version in my view window.
That's possible.
So it looked a little bit laggy. But what's going on? So glad you could make it. Did we ping Desmar? Did they know it's theirs? Okay. Let's make sure that they know it's theirs.
Most definitely.
Let's see. We have a couple of updates. Well, hold on. Handful of updates, not very many though. Community stream. That's what I'm going for. I am just all over the place right now. So, community stream updates for June, for May. It says June on there, but for the May's community stream.
Oh, yes. Yes.
We currently have 7 votes with 6 days left.
Okay.
We do have an official date. It is going to be this coming Sunday, the 18th.
The 18th, yes.
That is going to be your community stream. I should post that in chat. I should post that somewhere in the Discord, huh?
Yeah. Schedule or announcements,
followers,
maybe?
Announcements. We are confirming the May Unity stream will be this Sunday, the 18th. Let me double check, make sure there's nothing else on the calendar. Nope, I actually have that on the calendar. Perfect. So this Sunday, the 8th, that says 19th. This Sunday, the 18th. Voting 6 more days in community streams. Good job. Boom. All right. So just updated Discord. So yes, this Sunday we will be live with the community stream and we will see what's going on. So right now we have 7 votes. We have 2 for pop culture builds. We have 1 for an AMA. We have 1 for a cooking with chat.
Okay. Cool.
And we have 3 for board game night.
And just so y'all know, anybody who's in chat right now that was not around on Friday, y'all missed out. We had a baller time playing. What did we play?
It was Cult Express. Cult Express was amazing.
Oh my god.
I loved that stream. We were going to continue doing, but I am salty as all hell because y'all failed to show up. We were going to play a game with you. I actually had it all figured out on how to actually incorporate people and bring people in. No one.
We've got to do that.
No one showed up. No one even watched.
If y'all actually choose
I'll give Chad a couple more opportunities. I'll give them a couple more chances. But if we go 2 or 3 more of these and no one's there to game, I'm cutting it off, and it's just gonna be
we just want to include you guys.
It's just gonna be with Vixie and us.
We want to vibe out with you. We want to see what it's like to interact with you on stream. It'd be a great way to test it out if we could ever do any actual D&D gaming with you guys too. So
it helps us test all the systems that we're working up to.
Exactly.
But I'm salty because no one showed up for that one, and yet that's the one they're voting for the community stream. So I'm just saying, if no one shows up to the community stream,
I am gonna give you guys the benefit of the doubt, and the reason for that is there wasn't a a clear heads up that that's what Friday's stream was going to be all about. So it's possible some people didn't know, but you know, for the very least, the people that were there and the people that heard us talking about it the stream before, you know,
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
It's fun. It's fun. But it was a lot of fun. We are going to do more of those. I will continue to improve the setup in the back stream. And we recently decided against upgrading the PC for now. Right now is just the absolute worst time to do it. And
For like just what's available?
For what's available, for the prices and just everything going on. So right now, we're probably going to hold off and reconsider. Because right now we're not really like hurting for anything, but that does mean what I might do instead is I might reconsider getting a streaming laptop or like some sort of a different way to stream in the back room to improve the quality.
Okay.
Because right now that laptop back there barely holds on.
It's dying. It's on its, but you know.
But I also, it would be nice to maybe even double down on some of our equipment, get some permanent equipment for there, so I don't always have to like dismantle all of this, move it to the back room.
Right. That would also be cool. Just getting maybe some extra mics, maybe some extra cameras.
So considering all of that might be in our future in terms of updates for the tavern, because yeah, it's just don't know what we're gonna do for a game table right now. We're still looking around for options.
For the best one. Okay.
Yeah, so it's
I'm always keeping my eye out as well.
Like things that you want, but you know, the way that you want them aren't always available or easy to get. So it's like, it's a problem. But what else? What else? Is that it? I think that's it. We have that one. We're still working on June's community stream, and I think. Oh, so for this Friday, are you here this Friday?
Yes? Question mark.
So
Sure.
I'm thinking what I want to do is, it's been kind of things have been kind of nice. How does the camera seem bright to you? Like on either of our side? Again, maybe it's just my distorted viewpoint.
It looks, for me, it's just
a little blue.
Maybe it's normally like that, and I'm tripping. But
You think you're a little blue?
yes, yeah, you're a lot whiter. In light. Oh, there we go. That's different.
Is that better?
That feels right. You were bowling when we went live?
All right, how does that look? I feel like that's a lot more natural.
No, I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that looks a lot better.
That looks right.
All right, so yeah, we have a review today. It's not going to be a very long review. It looks like I didn't really see it, but when I loaded it up, it didn't look like there was a whole lot of sustenance. So that's kind of another reason why we're letting Desmar catch up. But yeah, so
I did ping them, so they should be well. Actually, I have to actually check.
But for Friday, so I have been kind of liking taking a break from like the history of and a little bit more of the deeper dive D&D stuff.
Okay.
Been kind of nice practicing with some other things.
Definitely. I've been liking that.
Subletting subclasses, pop culture builds, still want to continue with those. But now that we've tested them out, they're not my highest priority to like just churn them out.
Sure.
I like that we have the process down. So I just want to do those like once or twice a month, just kind of start rotating them all.
Okay.
But considering that we now have board game night, we have pop culture builds, and we have subletting subclasses. Mm-hmm. So those are things that we can rotate that I want to like start rotating out throughout the month. Those are already 3 options. Then, of course, we still have the option to rotate out a D&D topic throughout the month. But I really want to get more into being able to do things like gaming with chat and we've talked about that before. So
Yes.
I think what would be beneficial is for us to actually nail down the specifics of how one-shot rivals will work. I think if we nail down exactly how we want to do it,
Okay.
the rule sets, and even bust out a handful of the characters, because it's not going to be like a homebrew review. It's not going to be like a huge balancing issue. It's going to be a creature/character sheet, D&D model, directly based off of what they can do, but it's not going to be a one-to-one. It's going to be the best translation for what makes sense in terms of how the game is going to be played.
100%.
And I think if, because I'm thinking certain characters are going to have some oddities, but we could probably, when needed to, we can shift what it actually does to make more sense for. Like I would, for instance, one idea that I've been toying with is like Spider-Man and Venom in Marvel Rivals. Very odd characters to apply to a D&D round-to-round version, because they're very...
Their web swing ability makes them basically able to like teleport around the map. Like anywhere they need to be, like almost instantly.
True. And then so it's like, I was trying to figure out how to relate that to in-game. But one thing I know that is a big deal about this version is the control of the point.
Sure.
So I was wondering if maybe reflavoring one of their abilities or repositioning one of their abilities to where they can be perched one spot and then they can make like triple their normal speed. They can make like a line on the battlefield, and that's their web swing. And anybody in that line would be like pushed like to the side, like as if they're like swinging through and like kicking someone aside.
Interesting.
Kind of like almost like a ram attack, but they basically swing through it. So I'm trying to think of like, if the ability directly doesn't relate well to a round-based version, we might have to tweak it. Okay,
that's fair enough.
But kind of so similar to pop culture builds, doing the closest relationship with without homebrewing it. But I don't think we're going to be looking for D&D abilities. I think we're just going to relate it in a way that makes sense.
In the context of D&D mechanics.
Yes. So if someone fires a gun, we're not going to be like, oh, they're firing a crossbow. No, they're going to fire a gun. We're just going to relate what does that look like in a round.
Yes. Like what kind of damage output do you do? Like what type of action does it take to activate? Like all of that type of stuff.
Exactly. And that's really what I'm interested in doing. So I think it would be really nice because I want to get to that. I really want to run that.
No, I totally agree.
I don't want to do all of that work alone. Not just because it's a lot of work. It's because I really don't want to. I don't want to solely be the reason that certain mechanics work. I want to make sure that the mechanics that I'm approaching it with make sense.
Sure.
And since you've played the game, it's easy to bounce those ideas off because we both come from a different balance of D&D, but we both know what Marvel Rivals does.
Yes.
And even pulling it up on screen and just being able to like read through it, it will be fun too.
Okay. Yeah. I think that'll be good.
I would love to get through all of that. I am so excited. My first instinct is it's probably going to be like a 2v2 because I just don't think we'll have that many players.
Sure.
If we can get at least 4 people in chat, I don't mind attempting a 3v3.
Sure.
But even a 2v2, I think appropriately could work for that.
Yeah, I totally think we could mess around with that. Like figuring out how that's gonna look and what responses look like and all of that stuff. So okay. Yeah. We should totally sit down and do you want to do most of the hashing out of that like on stream? Do you want that to be a whole episode, or do you want to like figure it out and then present it to everybody and be like, hey, this is
what I mean, like for Friday, like when like this is just what we're doing on Friday, like live on stream. We just talk about it. You and I just hammer it out. More just less of a D&D stream or D&D discussions where we're entertaining and just more of going live. And you and I are just sitting there
doing some
breaking it out.
Development.
Yeah. More of like a behind the scenes, but still podcast, still interacting with chat, not ignoring people. But it's much more about us being like, this is what we are building for you. And we want to do that live.
Cool.
So, other than that, I'm trying to get, we've talked about this before. I like how the Discord is laid out. But there are some things that I feel pressured to do, but I also wonder if it's just that I have ideas that aren't meant for such a small Discord.
I see what you're saying.
Because there's a lot of things that I feel like I need to change because nothing's ever been used of it. But maybe it's just because we don't have a huge Discord yet. And it's a percentage of the people that do use the Discord that are in it kind of thing, right? It's those, the percentage of people that are in it versus those that interact versus those that interact who are going to do this. And of those, you know what I mean? Like it's that step down. But I don't know, I keep thinking of the different channels. No one's ever used improvements yet, but most people tell us live. Like most people just chat with us about it.
Oh, yeah.
I do
stuff that comes out of the
yeah, community ideas. I mean, it has posts in it, but I feel like those posts only happened when we first made them.
Oh, and or when prompted.
Yeah.
Like, hey, go post that community ideas or something like that.
I don't know, I need to do some work and clean this thing up anyway. But
I mean,
I've been really meaning to clean up like the onboarding process in a couple of the channels. So.
Oh yeah. In the onboarding process, it was working well for a while.
Yeah, but I feel like I think Discord has made enough changes to where I can
automate it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I can get rid of most of the excess steps that are even involving us and just have people come in and then just ask them to post their nickname, and whenever we see, you know, that channel be posted in, then we can just go update them. So I think that would bypass a lot of stuff.
Okay. So.
But yeah, all right. Well, I guess we've given Des enough time, so
they're online. They're definitely online. I saw them. It looks like they're playing Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know if that's actually what's happening or not. But
all right. Well, maybe they're listening in the background. But yeah, so this Friday we'll do some Marvel Rivals development, and from there, yeah, hopefully that and then board game night will help us test some various tools and resources that will allow us to then work our way to doing with gaming with chat. Funny enough, I almost talked Vixie into going live with me yesterday.
I was curious because I saw that picture you posted in the sub chat, and I was like,
yeah, we just happened to be using the back room, and there was all the equipment, and I had joked, and I was like, we should just without saying nothing, we should just go live and then just be gaming. But wasn't really feeling meat on camera, so felt that.
Fair enough.
But that close to just saying fuck it and just
let's see what fucking happens.
Yeah, and then just being live with High Point, so that would have been interesting. But there's rekindling a lot of the things. There's a lot of cleanup I have to do to make a lot more things make sense, because there's just over the years there's things that, you know, made sense at one point or another, but it gets a little bit convoluted after a while, and I had ideas that just never were fleshed out, so I have to go back through and scrub a little bit of that.
Where was the actual path that this was getting from point A to point B? No, I totally get that.
Yeah, but I mean that's what happens when you try to, you know, make your own system off of, you know, the foundations of others.
Yes. Very true.
All right, so we will switch over. So we are doing a review today, homebrew review. This is going to be some. Yep. Bam. Okay, so all right, cool. Well, anybody in chat, we're going to do a quick little YouTube intro if just in case this goes and transitions over. So if you're in chat and you want to participate, when you hear greetings gamers, feel free to spam hi YouTube.
Spam YouTube.
This is Mothkin, Desmar, Summer. Here we go. Greetings, gamers, and welcome to another Community Creations review from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I'm your host, Vortex. That gentleman over there is your co-host, Kage, and this is a new species coming from Desmar Sama called the Mothkin. Not exactly sure what this is going to bring us, but join us to find out and let us know in the comments what you think. All right. Boom.
Sweet.
Right. And I guess we'll just jump right into it. Let's get there. Okay. Here we are. We have the Mothkin, and as always, let's begin with the description. Born of a realm between the Feywilds and Shadowfell, the Mothkin lord over a forest devoid of light and would regularly prey upon any poor creature brave or stupid enough to venture into their woods. They've recently been seen traveling into the material plane and have made an eerie reputation for themselves. Some farmers have claimed to have lost livestock to the Mothkin. Merchants convey they have had members disappear in the dead of night, and even smaller hamlets or towns report Mothkin to be drawn to the light of their churches at night. Not all Mothkin are simple-minded hunters drawn to lone prey. The more curious of their people have learned about the peoples of the material plane, even their language, and how to interact with them properly. Interesting. So I'm getting a play on, talk about venture. Let's see.
I think your initial assessment was right. It is like actual moth folk.
It does seem that way based off of the description. Interesting. So
coming out of the Shadowfell and the Feywild.
Right, claiming livestock, people disappearing, but also being drawn to light. So this is a very unique blend of things you would expect from the Feywild, but also feels very moth-like.
Yeah. I like how it is, though it gives you the vibe of almost this I want to say dark, but like this looming, ominous sort of like creature figure, almost kind of like a vampire type deal, but not exactly. But this could be very cool.
I'm curious how other DMs would play this, because based on this next part where it says that they're not just always simple-minded, some of them are curious, they'll learn the behaviors of their prey or of the peoples. They'll learn their language, they'll learn how to interact with them. So I could see this being how this can translate to a playable character, because you're one that wants to do the whole, I want to integrate, or sure, I don't want to be like my kind. There's a lot of reasons why you can justify using this as a playable character. But as a DM, that idea of having this race exists means that there are going to be whole swaths of them that are almost ravenous. Like you could go into a dark forest and they would just be in swarms. They would just be human-sized moths.
Like gnolls.
Yes, so similar to that.
Interesting.
But then you might have others that, in the same vein, could be like a tribe of wood elves, completely isolated, want nothing to do with you, will basically tell you to leave or die on sight, right? Then you could have the changeling type versions where they learn enough to lure you in, right? With voices. Like the kind of concept of you don't see them until it's too late.
Yeah.
Or they're the ones that get you to trust them until it's too late. And then there could be the ones that are fully integrated, the ones that are detached from the society, that you may know the legends of the bad ones. So when you see these, you are much more hesitant. But similar to how the first time in the lore, not first time in in real world, but in the first time in lore when Dragonborn were introduced, the idea that they were the scorn. Same thing, in history with orcs or half orcs or any, there's always been species that upon first introduction, the lore states that usually they have a minority bad side that made a bad reputation for them, because if you're an isolated, group, you're not likely to get the best of everything.
Very much. Like, no one's gonna look at you weird or being scared of a bear. If it were to like walk up on you in the middle of the street. And so all of a sudden, basically introducing what used to be something that's just innately scary, because they have chosen a different path to do something different, to interact, to assimilate, to be kind, that's new. And so being hesitant is logical.
I mean, to me, it's the same thing as introducing the concept of neutral or good vampires.
Sure.
It is abruptly refreshing, because it is not the thing I need to be afraid of. They're not savages. They're not trying to seduce me. They're not trying to get me to do something I don't want. But at the end of the day, you're just like, oh, I had the misinterpretation of what you were based on all of my previous experiences.
It reminds me exactly of, I don't know if you've seen the anime Demon Slayer, but
I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't watched it.
There are a couple of demons in Demon Slayer that actually end up working with the Demon Slayers to like stop the big bad, right? You know what I mean? And so like that whole idea that you have the opportunity, like these guys, like you're innately evil as a demon, like you're a freaking, but
there's exceptions to the rule.
There's always exceptions.
So that's why I like that with this mindset that they come from these areas that are already places of caution, that they by nature have what we would feel as either insidious or just something to be wary of, right? They take your livestock first. They might take people for one reason or another. Like there's reasons why your first interaction or your first knowledge of them would give you cause for concern. But as a DM, I look at something like this, that little bit of lore that gives me enough to build off of. I could easily justify that there are those versions, but then there are also versions that you won't expect to see. You go into a nobleman's chambers to have dinner, and there's a bunch of noblemen, high-class people, and then there's one of these dressed fancy. And that could be very shocking, because if you've only ever heard the lore of the very first time they came through into the prime material plane before we really had any relations, and that's your entire, let's say you come from a small village, and these have that legend.
You hear horror stories of them, like the what do you call it, Baba Yaga or the Boogeyman or something like that.
Exactly, because when they first came over, sure, they did take the livestock, and maybe there were some skirmishes until we learned how to talk, and then we're like, oh, my bad. And now we're fine, right?
Right.
But you don't know that positive thing happened. All you know is the legends of when they first set foot on the prime material plane. So that's what I take from this. This mindset is, it's not just that they're meant to be scary, but that they had a rough origin and set a precedent. But now you can take that and play with it.
And run with it and show and demonstrate how they evolve past that and beyond that.
And how each of them took that differently, right? You can have isolationists who use that to their advantage to stay isolationists, but they're pacifists. Like, they're not actually savage, but they're going to make you think that if you go into their forest, that's going to be the end of you. And maybe they don't kill people, but maybe they're like, well, we can't let you leave because our whole deal is people don't leave this forest. If you leave, it kind of destroys it. So you can live here.
On you, and so you leave us something else.
Could be that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many ways that you can play with that mindset of their evil creatures without actually making them evil creatures.
Sure.
And I always like disrupting people's expectations, especially in D&D.
Agreed.
D&D is a great way to disrupt expectations.
Big facts.
All right, so is this the provided artwork that we're going to look at here?
This is the provided artwork. This is not my approximation. Ooh. Oh, wild.
I
Even
think
their faces are very insectoid-like.
Right? I was expecting a little bit more humanoid, but this is amazing.
I love the wings so much.
Okay.
I might have gone a little bit more, like you were saying, humanoid with the face, you know, eyes, nose, mouth type deal. But
like, at the same time, I'm kind of over the overly humanoids. Like
that's fair. Well, that's fair.
I don't mind like humanoid, but I get kind of the uncanny valley aspect where it looks like what it's supposed to, but it's very human-ish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of just miss the days where you had a lion head and you could speak English, but it was a lion speaking English versus
you have that with
Tabaxi.
You have it with the Loxodon, the elephant people. You have it with the we had it with the hippos.
Yes,
the hippo race,
and that's what I prefer. So, I just, I'm kind of not just in D&D, but just in general, that idea of taking something but still trying to force a human face to it.
Sure.
I'm okay with this thing being outside the normal.
This is just because I'm a Trekkie, but this definitely gives me like alien species vibes. Because I've seen a lot of like, even in Star Wars, you'll see a lot of like, just strange people, right? That have like super weird faces and all this. So this gives me kind of that type of energy with it. So, it's wonderful. And I think it's totally real for this world too.
So two things that the images are giving me is one, what I would have loved to have in the lore or in one of the abilities is, because you know how moths, they look like certain things, like their wings are supposed to look like predators.
Oh yeah, like eyes or something like that.
I kind of am looking at this image and I'm seeing like almost like partial faces.
Oh, interesting.
And then how interesting would that be where it had that ability to where it almost looks like moving faces. They're not actual, but it can be advantage on intimidation checks. It can try to cause frighten or something.
I would love if there was some like illusory stuff you could do with it. Like maybe this like dust comes off and it almost creates like an illusory like visage of somebody like or something like that. That would be
or even if it turns around and you see its wings full out, maybe you see something different. Oh, maybe that would be an interesting like defense where when its wings are fully spread out and it's not facing you, you have to make, or if you're in direct line of sight of its back when its wings are fully spread, you have to make a save, a dex save, or not a dex save, but a DC save, or be frightened, or succumb to like the like phantasmal force.
Sure.
Or some kind of idea that just like what a moth is meant to do is if you are directly behind it and it fully spreads its wings, you have to make some sort of check or actually be scared of it. Hence what it's meant to do.
Right.
It's meant to scare you into thinking it's something
That's kind of cool. I don't mind that at all.
So it's a small little defense, DC save, where you're frightened for one round. And that's the whole point. And the entire point is if it's facing like here on a square, you can't be here and get affected by it. You have to be directly behind it. So, indirect. I don't know if you would say line of sight or direct.
So the way I would imagine this works is it's an activated ability by the character. So it's something they're doing on their turn, like as a bonus action or something like that. I would also imagine
wings.
that you can turn your back to the target.
Gotcha. So it is target. Like I could
turn and then just I'm gonna pop out my wings to try and do this thing to you. So
right. Okay. I do think that's kind of a cool concept, mainly because it could be seen as just not trying to get stabbed in the back. Like if something's sneaking up, you just nope, and then you're frozen for a round, so I can get away.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's all it's giving me as I look at this. The second thing that I kind of would hope for, or in the future would even think to create myself, is based on the description of how they interacted and they're moth people from a different area. I would almost love to see like the human version of it, then the like tiny fairy actual moth version of it, and then a creature boss version of it.
I would definitely love to see this as a creature stat block.
So I would like to see a couple where two creatures, like a tiny and a large creature, and then the humanoid that you know, is in the middle that's actually playable.
Sure.
That would be kind of cool. So that's the only, I look at these and those are the inspirations that I would get to build upon this.
Thug life. Love it.
All right, well, let's get into the actual meat and potatoes, starting with the ability scores. Choose one of any two, or choose any one. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So choose one of A. Choose any +2 and choose any +1, or choose 3 different +1s. So pretty standard.
Yep.
We've talked about this before. Would be kind of nice to steer it in a specific type of direction.
At least say one of them has to be on either side, mental, physical.
Yeah, or even assign one, you know, at least one's dex, something like that. But otherwise, not a bad thing. Your size is medium, makes sense. I would go so far as to say your size can be small or medium.
I would say, because theoretically we do have a fairy race, so there is a foundation for having a tiny.
Or even a tiny. I don't know if we'd want to, I don't know if you want to, I don't know how much that would change what it can do, but I mean, realistically, it's just a race though. There's not much going on here. So I would be okay with that. I would say that for a moth, why not say tiny to medium? Let you be all the way to human size or down to fairy. Why not?
Yeah.
And then be small. Like, I mean, it's a moth. Actually, yeah, I'm okay with that. The more I think about it, the more it makes sense that this thing could come in any size up to human.
So wild that I don't think that's ever been done before, but like
To have such a spread?
to have any spread. Every time you have a race, it's a specific size.
That's true.
Saying that your size can be anywhere from, you can choose anywhere from tiny to medium. That's wild. And I think that's so legit.
I think that needs to be done.
Race. Like, I think that's a fantastic idea.
I think so. Yeah, no, I would 100% be down for that, because that's a argument I could see someone making in High Point. Be like, hey, can I be a different actual size? But why not? You know what I mean? Like someone who wants to be a human who essentially has dwarfism, I would allow. Like, you don't have to be a dwarf to be that tiny. You don't have to be a halfling. You could just be that race that is also that tiny. You couldn't be tiny, but I would okay with you having stunted growth. Just like if someone wants to have a super tall, lanky character, why can't you have a super tiny character, even though it's not?
Weird question. You ever seen that show, The Borrowers?
No, but Soul just said that 2024 introduces spread sizes for races between small and medium, or medium and large.
Really?
So that's now a new thing.
That's cool. Well, we agree with you, 2024, apparently.
Once.
I mean, there's some things that I've seen in there that's kind of cool, but there's some other things.
The borrowers.
Anyways, the borrowers. Do you basically that these borrowers are literally just stupid tiny people? They live like under your floorboards. They're basically mice, but they're humans.
Okay.
But they're just tiny, and they're like, they operate and they live like using like paper clips as bow and arrows.
They borrow things from you. Yeah,
exactly. And like that's their whole culture. Does High Point have something like that? Like tiny humanoid creatures that exist that are, you know?
Yeah, actually.
Okay. Is it like a specific race? Is it like, or is it just like a group of people that like this thing happened to them and now they're just tiny?
Of course, there are people who have had unfortunate things happen to them.
Sure.
But yes, there are a variety of tiny to minuscule like races that I've had that are highly intelligent. So humanoid type insects of various sizes.
Is this one of those unlock things if you ever wanted to play one of these races? Or are they not?
The way that I've used them, I've never considered them playable.
Okay.
As in they're not that individualized. They're more of a concept to fill a purpose.
Got you.
Like you may interact with them, but I would consider them more like this. So far, the way that I've used these tiny type of races, like what you were saying, like with the borrowers, is I haven't seen the show, so I can't say like the show says it, but abstractly more like Oompa Loompas. They're there in the background, they have a purpose, they do stuff, they are needed, but it's not quite something like, again, like the idea of like no one's gonna hire a Oompa Loompa, like only Wonka has them. It's kind of that thing. You might see them, you might interact with what they do, you might see them in your floorboards borrowing your stuff, but they're not really like a thing for you.
This kind of gives me vibes like, you know how theoretically druids can talk to animals? Would you consider every animal an NPC? I wouldn't call it an NPC. I would just call them kind of like part of the environment, like a tree.
For the bulk of them, correct. Yes,
for the bulk
like
of them,
absolutely.
Yes.
If you just happened to cross an animal and said, "Hey, by the way, do you know anything?" and they just said, "Oh, there's a fire nearby," that is not an NPC now. With the,
exactly, and
not
so
like a shopkeep that you're suddenly now like exploring the life.
So that's kind of my question is like, there might be some borrowers that are NPCs, but borrowers as a whole,
correct, would not be considered NPCs.
But like almost any dwarf you come along is going to be an NPC. Any halfling you come along is going to be some sort of NPC.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, that would be a much better way to put it, is that they are
not NPCs.
Yeah, not even to the NPC level, but they are there to serve purposes.
Sure. Okay.
Good questions. Okay, so size is medium. I think we both agree that, yeah, tiny to medium, I think would be a great spread, especially 2024 says spreads are okay.
Heck yeah, spreads for life.
Especially because the creature type is a fae.
Love it.
Makes even more sense to have a spread.
Yes, indeed.
I am actually interested to know what 5e says about what it means to be a fae. If that itself comes with, because this is the race, and normally you get race and class, but
so the purpose for creature type here is for things like spell effects.
So classification. It's a classification, nothing more.
Yes.
Like undead.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
Correct.
So so the creature type is just a categorization of fae.
Yes.
All right. Because of course with me, High Point, that actually comes with way more, like, that's the funny thing. You could be a race, but if you want to be of the fae side, that actually also comes with baggage.
Yes.
So it's weird to me to say like, oh, you can just be a fae, be like, and nothing else, like that. You can just be a fae. Like, okay, but usually that has to come with some baggage, has to come with some rules.
Yep.
But that's fine.
No, I get it.
Speed, 30 feet, fly and climb speed equal to your walking speed.
Okay.
That's kind of insane.
Okay. I mean, I will say this is the second race that I know of, Aarakocra being the first, that actually gives you just a straight up fly speed. Again, while I understand why there's a lot of hesitation for that, because flying can be a powerful thing at level 1 to just be able to do, and so a lot of people are like, I don't really like flying.
Yeah, it's
and like
the glide
most
or
people
the
just like
feather fall.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you just like negate a lot of stuff being able to fly out the gate. So I get why, but I kind of like being able to like have a fly speed like this. Like, you got freaking wings, you should be able to use those freaking suckers.
Though if you've ever watched a moth fly, I wouldn't mind saying that the fly speed is like 15, because in the sense that moths kind of fly erratically.
Yeah.
I could even see a 20 with the mindset of even a bit of an explanation that says you fly erratically, which also could mean you get, so even though your
like
fly speed,
so
what if your fly speed was only 15 or 20, but you impose disadvantage on ranged attacks against you because you fly erratically?
I wouldn't mind that. I kind of wouldn't mind that.
I would even be okay because you're a moth, even capping how high you can fly. Because most times you think flight is just infinite.
Yeah.
I would not mind saying that this moth and the weight and the way that they fly, I wouldn't mind saying that they can only go 60 feet up at max. Something along that line. 60 feet above solid ground kind of thing.
Sure.
So you could follow the terrain at a maximum of 60 feet. Or even less, but you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't mind fixing some of that simply to flavor it better for the moth.
Yeah, no, I kind of like that. I'm also not totally mad at the height limitation. I'm trying to think about how I would work that, but I think it's doable. I think it's doable.
What's going on, Hecate? And Hecate has my same mindset too. Is it also just struck me crazy that you got a fly and climb speed, and then all of them are equal. I expected one of them to take a small dip, which is why I'm thinking I'm okay with the crawl speed, like the climb speed. Totally okay with that for a moth, but I really do think having all three speeds identical, that is kind of a lot.
I'll say, and I don't specifically think the climb speed is necessary. You know,
I get why though, but
I do. You know, you're like an insect, but like theoretically, so if we limit the height, they can just go as high as they can, and if there's like a wall there, they can just climb on the wall.
Yeah,
you know, basically Spider-Man up the wall to the top.
And if they jump off, they would hover
fly,
down.
But they're gonna keep
fluttering
going down.
Yeah, until they reach
even
that.
if you go laterally, you're gonna be going down too.
And so it says essentially giving it like hover with an increased limit.
Sure,
that could be another way to look at it. Is because I don't imagine, I don't know how high a moth can typically go. I don't imagine normally they would have a limit, but I don't imagine them be, you know, there usually seems to be pretty frail, even in the way that they fly. They seem to be very erratic. So I imagine that especially at this size, that kind of erraticness is built into their defensiveness, hence the eyes. They have so many eyes to be able to handle moving erratically, helps them with flying defensively, but I kind of wouldn't mind having that be given because they don't have as fast of a fly speed.
I would even say something like if they were in like heavy winds or someone cast gusts or someone cast a storm or something like that, that they would have some sort of like
difficult terrain or something.
Yeah, I like difficult terrain. Like in heavy winds, flying is as though you're flying in difficult terrain. I really like that. I think that's
because every step forward is just a more beats trying to fight against it.
You're crazy erratic and all this stuff. Okay, yeah, that's kind of cool.
So I'd be okay with those things. It's just to make it feel. I don't mind giving it fly or crawl or walk on the climb. I just feel it could connect better.
Sure.
With the concept of a moth. All right, so we also have light awareness as an undefinable and unquantifiable sense. It's an interesting way to begin it. As an undefinable and unquantifiable sense, you always know where the nearest light source is, even through solid matter. So
give me a range on that. That's all I'm gonna say.
I would. Okay, so how do you feel about this? That's very interesting. It's very, I like the idea that it's light, not heat. I get that. I wouldn't mind splitting it up. I kind of agree with you on a range, but I wouldn't mind even splitting it where you have two versions of this. One, you always know the direction of the sun. So like if the sun's directly below you, you know it's nighttime.
Okay.
So if it's not daylight, but you see the sun's over there, it's like, oh, about an hour before sunrise. So it's kind of like your own, not navigation, right? It's not like direction sense, but if you also know, if the in-game sun does the, east to west, then you're fine, right? But that would be an interesting, just overall, you always know the direction of the sun.
Okay.
Kind of like, I can understand that for being a moth. If you really wanted to, I don't know what else, magnetism or whatever for like direction sense, but I don't mind that. But then the other one I would say would be the, you can locate the nearest source of light within 100 feet, even through solid matter. Like, I do feel like there needs to be a much more local bubble.
Yes. And I'd be okay with like a fat bubble. Like even something like a mile? Like not that fat, like 300 to 500 feet. You know what I'm saying?
I'm also trying to think of when and what situation would a light source be that either rare or that necessary to find.
I'll say this. Say you're in a dungeon and like there's no lighting in this dungeon, but all of a sudden you sense a light source within a certain range, and then you start trying to like hone yourself in on that light source, and maybe you find somebody who's camped out there. Maybe you find, you know, a room that's got stuff in it.
See, I think that was the better argument, a campsite. Finding a campsite in the middle of the night. Because it's not that it doesn't have to be pitch black. You could be, you know, you could see through the moonlight or the stars or anything, but walking through a forest that's heavily dense, but suddenly being able to know there's a fire off in the distance. Like,
Yes.
because of the candlelight or a torch.
Mhm.
You can't see the torch yet, but you're like, oh, a torch is on its way.
Sure.
And being able to sense its like general distance. Yeah, okay. That's an argument I can get behind why you would want to be able to sense the nearest light source is if it, I would, okay. And I see earlier down there, we have dark vision. So there, combined with that, I can understand why that makes sense. Cause you never need a light source yourself.
Sure.
So I would definitely say then yes, you want a bubble. I don't think that should be infinite. I think the bubble would be best. I don't mind 300 feet because if you're walking alone at night in the middle of nowhere, 300 feet, even, you know, I mean, maybe you could probably see a light by that distance, but if you're in any kind of obscured area, hills, bushes, trees, forests, like you said, in a dungeon and you're going around turns, I can get behind 300 feet because that's 300 feet is a football field.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I could totally get behind 300 feet nearest light source. The sun part was just more of a unique aspect.
I think that's a cool idea. I think that's a cool idea because it almost gives you the ability to, like, yeah, I'd say depending on your intelligence, yeah, maybe you could tell what time of day it is.
What time of day, what direction you need to go. Like, that's kind of how I feel would blend in with the sense that they're from a different area. So they just sense the world differently.
I would say some things to the effect of, like, during the day, like, it's like when you turn on detect magic and you're in a magic shop. It's just lights everywhere, right? You know what I mean? So like if you're just outside during the day,
well, that's what I was concerned more so with it is like at night you'd know how long until sunrise, or in a dungeon you'd know what time of day it is.
Sure.
Because in the dungeon you'd be like, oh, the sun's over there, and it wasn't.
I'm talking
there,
about the light aspect of it, not the sun aspect of it. So during the day, when
you don't have a light sense because it's washed out. So how about what you would say is, okay, so your light awareness, you always know the direction of the sun, and when not bathed or when not in direct light, you can sense the nearest light source.
Sure.
So it just in any light, if someone has a torch near you, your senses are off. Like, obviously, because it's kind of just like, it's almost like so loud. So I would say that your senses don't work if you were in any direct light, because that would include sunlight.
And I would say that is included in this because it says the nearest light source. And so if you're right next to one, that's the nearest light source. That's what you can sense.
Right.
And so if you're
in a dungeon, but someone somehow like, we're getting really creative here. Let's say you got captured by people who are really smart. So you're deep in a dungeon, but they have a sense of, a mirrors where they can reflect sunlight directly into your cell. So you're in direct light, even though you're very far away from its source. And it would blind you. I'm just trying to think of like kind of creative ways,
that would
situational.
Totally work. If somebody knew what your ability was, and they could just.
So that's what I would say that's why I kind of like the idea of non-direct sunlight. So if you're in a dark, so like let's say you're in a dark room and someone opens up a window and the sun ray casts upon you, you can no longer know where their torch is in the rest of the room.
Sure.
But if you walk out of that light into the shadow, you can now get your senses back. The sunlight is not the closest light source now. Even though there's that light beam coming from the window, the person across the room with the torch kind of go through, like, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I mean by the light sensitivity should be based on just you being in direct light, not necessarily sunlight.
Interesting.
But the idea is that you being.
Why wouldn't the sunlight coming through the window count as the nearest light source?
Because I always just look at it as I think of it as you always know where the sun is, and the sun light isn't a source because the source is the sun, and the light bouncing off the carpet and bouncing off the walls and kind of being able to see that area isn't the light source. The light source would be like that person's torch or the gem they're holding, because that's emitting the light. The light bouncing around the room isn't being emitted. But that's that's a niche situation where you'd be in a room where only that beam of light would be shown, but everywhere else around it's dark. So it's like if you were in the light, you couldn't sense the light across the room, but step into a shadow and you're like, oh, the lights over that direction.
Gotcha.
And that could be a fun puzzle for a DM to figure out where you have to.
You can almost just word it as when in dim light or darkness, you can sense the nearest light source.
I love that. That is the easiest way to say that. When in dim or dark light, when in dim light or darkness, you can sense the nearest light source. That solves it. And then you can always sense where the sun is, the direction of the sun.
Okay.
I think those sound kind of cool. They make it feel like you're not of this world, but you're also not just human that has a flight. Like it really feels like you are, I know we use this word a lot, but embodying this creature. You are this thing in human form. So I like that. I like light awareness, but I don't mind growing it a little bit. We also have dusting. While grounded, you can furious flutter your wings. I'm assuming that meant furiously flutter your wings.
Yeah.
As an action, you can produce a cloud of dust from your wings. Any creature within 10 feet of you must succeed a Constitution saving throw, or suffer the poison condition. Once you use this trait, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So,
okay,
I'm not mad at that.
That is a cool option. I know we were thinking about the illusion type stuff.
Honestly, thinking about this, I wouldn't mind this being how you activate the frightened ability. Instead of poisoned, anybody within 10 feet is now frightened of you.
Sure.
You flutter your wings, you make it look like a predator, and now they're all frightened. Dude, that's what I want.
I will say,
I like the idea of fluttering your wings is a frightened effect, because that's, I feel, what moths are meant to do.
So it's still a saving throw. Cool.
It would still be a saving throw. It's just changing poison to frightened. That's all I would do is just forget the dust.
I would also change the Constitution to something more.
It would be like intelligence.
Yeah,
or wisdom. But I would almost, because also from what I remember, the dust is important for a moth. So you don't like. If I'm really going like honest here, I think the dust is actually a bad thing. Like if you actually take the dust off a moth's wings, it can't fly.
Oh yeah. I think you're right.
So that's a little bit pedantic, but I think this is where I would prefer to see. I don't mind. This is not a problem. This is not imbalanced. I just think that in my mind, the frightened would be more.
I could even see the dusting again, because it does have that dust on it. Like it's almost. Again, my thought process is it's very illusory, right? So yeah, you furiously flap your wings and it looks like all this dust is around you, and this dust looks like it's forming whatever thing that it ends up frightening you. So
that's fair.
I totally I
could go either way.
Sure.
I could totally accept both of them. But it also does remind me that the dust is kind of important. So I wouldn't want to make this this ability too complex and have this affect your flying by using this ability, by saying like you can't fly for a few rounds. But I really wouldn't mind adding that if you have been fully submerged or are in torrential downpour or whatever the D&D equivalent, you can't fly until you are dry. Like, I don't mind the idea that, because that whole thing about moths' wings is like they're really delicate and they can actually not fly very easily. I wouldn't mind adding in a whole thing of like, if someone like puts you underwater, you have a span of time where you can't fly after that. Even if you're out of the water, like the fact that you were fully wet means that you can't fly. I wouldn't mind having something along that line. Or until a long rest.
I would say something to the effect of
like, even if it was like a short rest, like, after being, if you have been fully submerged or are completely wet, you must fully dry off or take via a short rest.
Yeah, I would say something to the effect short rest. Like, but the thing is, like, if you're in rain, like, you're just not going to be able to do it.
Okay.
Right? Like, because it's constantly raining. There's no way for you to dry yourself unless you like put yourself in some sort of magical bubble that's got. If somebody casts like what is it, wall of force over your head, and then you're literally cool,
right?
But outside of that, so I would say something to the effect like you can't use dusting or flight while wet, basically.
Yeah.
Right. You can't use dusting or flight while wet. And I'd say it takes you like, imagine getting out of the shower. Like, what does it take you? Like 5-10 minutes to dry yourself off? you know, something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
I could see, you know, something along those lines. I feel like those are not necessary, but they would make me feel much more in tune with being a moth.
sure.
Those are things that would make
Yeah.
me feel like, okay, I got to play this character right and at the right times. And let's face it, how often do DMs really, unless it's part of the thematic, how often are you really in rain? This would give a DM.
I can't tell you how many times I forget about that. There was one time I was playing with my players, and you know, I like to do like when they're traveling, I don't like to make it like super bogged down. Like I want them to like get to the activity, but I want them to experience something on the way. So I'll have them go. They make 2 rolls per day. If they're decent rolls, nothing happens. You guys move on. If they're not decent rolls, something happens. It doesn't have to be crazy. The tree falls in the road. There's some bandits. But this one time I was like, it wasn't that bad. So I was like, let me just make it rain and like he'll slow down.
Make it rain.
Like they were in like a crazy storm. It was cold, you know, they were uncomfortable. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be that crazy. But that was like the first time I can ever remember actually making it rain in my game. It's wild. It's so wild.
And that's what I'm saying is like playing this, your DM would be like, oh, I got to make it rain. I got to put you up against a druid who casts Gale Force Winds or Hurricane, or put you in like this would give a DM a reason to make it rain. And I think that sometimes is our job as players, is to give our DMs better ideas. It's, you know, there's a big push that, or an expectation, a concept, a stereotype that the DM has to have everything planned, right? And everything is just you're up against that plan.
Not this guy.
But you know what I mean, right?
No, I 100%.
This is one of those times where it's like you're giving your DM something to work with. And I think that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And then to end it, we get dark vision. You can see in dim light within 120 feet of you as if it were bright light, and in darkness as if it were dim light. You discern colors in the darkness only as shades of gray. And this, the way that darkness, I think you did it so well earlier, the way that this works, because it works in dim light or darkness, perfectly aligns with how you said light awareness should work. So your light awareness and dark vision always work in tandem. If one doesn't work, the other doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. Wow. There's a lot. It's for something so short. There's a lot to unpack in this.
Yeah. No.
But this is dope.
I think because at least the foundation of the lore was so well laid out. Like we had a lot to like run with and like pick at and like see what we can put together for the full synergy of this thing. So I like it. Like I wouldn't be mad at maybe another ability in here for them.
I'm trying to think. This is pretty good for a race, though, like a species. Like,
it is.
Like most don't get a lot. They usually get maybe a sight. They get their sometimes they get a base speed and a size, but usually that's about it. The fact that this gets the dusting and light awareness.
Well, I will say most races get at least 2 specific racial features.
Gotcha.
2 things that are like very specific to them. So I'd say this.
But we've also suggested a couple of those add-ons. Like if this flight speed were 20, but imposed disadvantage, or just gave you a +2 to your AC while flying, but your fly speed was only 15 or 20.
Yeah,
that would be that third thing. Right, because I feel like that is absolutely clutch to have something like that.
Yes, I do agree with that.
And then adding the can't use dusting or flight when wet is kind of another thing, but it's not a positive, but it's still yet another aspect that most races don't add. So I would say that you're right. It does deserve something, but I think we've already solved that problem by our other corrections.
So this race has charge, hooves,
oh, that's what this doesn't have. This doesn't have any special like attack ability outside of the dusting. I guess that's its attack ability.
This one's got equine build, survivor. But
so how about this? How about this? Light awareness should work the way we suggested.
Sure.
I like adjusting the flight speed to give you a bonus. I like that. I love the idea of changing this creature size, having a spread.
Sure, that range. Yep.
But how about this? Let dusting stay exactly as is. add in the ability that you can't fly or dust when wet. But you want another ability, add a flutter ability, like a frightening flutter ability. You have dusting, so how about frightening flutter?
Okay.
You do the same move, but you don't dust them, but this one imposes the frightened condition.
Okay.
And this one doesn't matter if you're wet or not.
I would also say this one can be done while you're flying too, because this one specifically says while you're grounded.
Yes, and then fluttering flutter could be while you're. That's it. That's fucking awesome. Or how about this one when grounded, frightening flutter only when you're flying?
Then you wouldn't be able to do it while you're wet because you can't fly while you're wet.
Fine,
but yeah.
But the idea behind the fact that you're fluttering in the air.
Yeah. I do like that's originally what I was thinking when you said frightening flutter. I was like, okay, this is gonna be the flying one. Yeah,
yes.
That's the grounded one. This is the flying one.
And that would make so much sense because then this creature coming from a tree or coming out of the darkness would fly at you, frighten you, then land, dust you, and then go. Like there's some combo there that makes perfect sense for something from the Feywild Shadow Realm. It's going to ambush you. It's going to use everything it can, and that got so much of. I mean, if it got surprise, then frightened you, then poisoned you, all before the initiative even started, this thing could be so devastating, and it doesn't even have to have a huge AC or anything. And that's just the race. I know that sounds like a lot, and maybe it is. Maybe it is too much for just a race.
I will say this. If we do the frightening flutter like that, I would change dusting instead of giving you the poison condition. How long does it give you the poison condition? Does it say? No, it just says you suffer the poison condition.
Well, because don't you save out of the poison condition? Don't you just have it until you save out?
So generally, when it says you're poisoned, it says you are poisoned for a minute. And you can try and save out.
I'm assuming that that's what this was intended to be, is poison for a minute, save out.
Then I would say
because it does say PHP page 292, so I'll bet you it's.
But that just describes the condition.
Oh, gotcha.
That isn't really, because each time it talks about the poison condition,
whatever
like in other spells, like whatever's whatever inflicts it.
I would say it was probably intended to be the 1 minute save out. That makes the most sense to me. And even then, that might be too long.
I because it's only once per long rest, I don't mind it being for a minute. I just think having two things that inflict a condition that would likely be for a minute is a lot. So I would change the poison condition to doing poison damage.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So that way you have a damage dealing one, you have a condition inflicting one, and then you have your other abilities like that. I'm
okay with that. I would be absolutely fine with that. Yeah, that's cool. Anything else?
I mean, this thing's kind of clean. Like, I like it even as is right now. Like, I like what it's trying to do with everything that it has, and I for sure think it rolls well.
It's gonna get a lot of bonuses, but it needs a lot of, like, as is, I wouldn't use it, but with all of the changes we've suggested, it's high point. That would be high point ready. The way that we just described. Oh man, yeah. If it honestly, if it were just like changing the dusting around, it would be so close to a 9. But no, I'd have to allow the size to change. I want that flight speed to give me some. I want to lower the flight speed and make the boost different. I want to adjust light awareness, and I do want to add that ability. So I just want to make it better. I love it. I don't want to change it in the sense of it's not bad. I want all of the ability, and that might be too much for some people. Some people might think we're being crazy for how much we're trying to add to a base race.
I really don't think so.
I don't think so either. But
especially compared to a lot of the other things that are out there. Again, this compares well to a lot of the other things that are out there, but so does what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna say that just because for high point it would need all of that brought over, but definitely gets the inspiration point. Really nicely creative. Isn't something that we've seen before. This gets all of the high marks. It's just there's too many things I need to change in order to make it high point ready. But if it gets it's gonna have to be an 8 because it gets the inspiration point. Like it hits all of the marks. It's just there's one too many things that I need to adjust for it.
Sure. But
that could have been so a 9 so quickly. But it's just it's
so close.
It's almost like it was presented so well as being so moth-like that I can't do it justice if it's not full moth. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's where I'm feeling. The fact that it can get wet and still do all this doesn't feel right. You gave me this moth from another dimension. I have to fully lean into it's a moth. I have to get the good and the bad from that, right?
Right.
And that's what I feel like we're making, and that's why I'm like so close to a 9, but it just needs that extra little bit to just feel the deal for me. So if you do see this in the future, I do hope you enjoyed that, Des. Fantastic submission.
No,
Thank you so much for giving this to us.
This is the business. Like, again, it was short, so sweet.
It was absolutely,
truly.
It ticked all the boxes. It had everything that we wanted to see. It had some great lore that wasn't overdone, gave us plenty to work with, but also gave it very succinct origins, and all of the abilities just flowed one to the next, and it just made me want more. That's the only knock I can make on this, because there wasn't anything wrong with it. There was anything unbalanced, there was anything bad. The only thing I can say is that it just left me wanting more. And thus, that's why I just couldn't give it any more of a point, because I would just naturally have to make it. Now, I don't want to call it better. It's not better. I just would have to give it more for me to fully invest into it.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for this. And thank you so much for joining us in chat. If you're catching this on YouTube, let us know in the comments what you thought about our review. Did you like it as written? Did you agree with what we said? Which abilities would you use? I'm really curious. Also, like and subscribe if you like this video. It really does help us, but dislike it if you disliked it. That's fine too. Otherwise, we will be back next week with another episode. I hope you guys have a great weekend ahead of you. Cheers.
Deuces, my friends.
All right, fantastic. I loved that. That was really cool. That was a pretty short stream, an hour and a half.
Okay.
Do you remember back in the day, my goal was to do at least 2-hour streams? Like, do you remember when I thought that was difficult?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, man, I'm gonna shoot every day. I want to do at least 2 hours. It's like 2 hours. That's gonna be a good stream. And now 2-hour streams is like, that's it.
Well,
it's hilarious just how like this rolls, but
that's
funny.
Like,
not everything has to be 6 hours. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's more about the consistency and about doing the deeds than it is about making it 6 hours. I mean, could we have gone longer? Sure. But having edited them for this long now, I will say that I understand what other streamers and YouTubers talk about when they do like the subathons or the 24-hour streams. There is a definitive point at which you can definitively see the energy levels go down. Like, there's always a point at which you can see you're just not able to keep up with it.
Sure.
And I've seen
Sure.
I've seen us have a couple of those where we go 6-7 hours and it's like,
oh yeah,
we're feeling it.
So long.
Oh, Des. Oh, okay. Well, hey, we got to restart. Okay, wait. Let's get it back. Yep, here we go. All right. Welcome to the review, everybody. You were playing Baldur's Gate 3 for the last 5 hours.
See, I was right.
We saw you. We tried to ping you. Well, you just missed it, but you got an 8 out of 10.
It was really good, dude. It was really good. We got really excited about it. I really hope you watch it and let us know what you think.
TLDR, it was phenomenal. TLDR, we really liked it. Your lore was perfect, gave us just enough for us to work with. Love the visuals on this. I will give you the general recap. So all in all, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not imbalanced. And as is, anybody could have a lot of fun with it. However, you get an 8 out of 10 because you get the inspiration point. It was really unique. Everything was good. But for me, it just leaves me wanting more. You did so good at the lore connecting this and making us feel like we are truly embodying a actual moth in a humanoid form.
Yeah.
That I wanted to feel that more than just by visual alone. So here's what we came up with as the ultimate build, or what I would probably do to fully invest this into High Point. When it comes to size, we've learned today that 2024 has recently adopted a new concept where they have size variations where you can do small to medium or medium to large. We just learned that because today I suggested that because you're Fae and because you're a moth, I would have loved to have seen the option for the size to be anywhere from tiny to medium. And Kage said we were both confused because that has never been done before, but I thought it was a cool idea. And then Soul let us know that that's actually now in 2024. So size choice between tiny and medium. So tiny, small, medium, I think would make this amazing for roleplay purposes and for creativity purposes. Creature type is perfect. Speed. We are not at all upset with having fly and climb. Those are fine. My extra little flavor for this is I suggested your fly speed be reduced to something like 15 or 20, but like a moth, because you fly erratically, you don't fly as far, so that's where you only get the 20 feet. But by flying erratically, you either can get a +2 to your AC, or you impose disadvantage on ranged attacks. One or the other. So either an overall AC boost or the range attack kind of makes the more sense. I think that was the better idea. But that was what we would suggest for altering the fly, because if you think about how a moth flies, it's very much like this. So it's not really getting your full speed straight.
Sure.
You're spending a lot of time going back and forth, but that back and forth should give you the bonus of defense. The light awareness. Really liked this idea. We both immediately realized that it should have a range cap, and I thought of adding one extra ability. So when it comes to light awareness, my suggestion was first aspect of the ability, you always know the direction of the sun. So this way, if you're smart enough and have an eye enough intelligence, you could tell when daylight's or when dawn's about to be, because you could tell the sun's just below the horizon. If you're in a dungeon, you can tell the sun's way over there, so it's going to be sundown soon, just simply because you know the direct
ideas at the time.
Maybe you were stuck behind ads. Oh no. I don't know if you could still hear us. I don't know where we left off.
Oh. That's so disrespectful. I gotta stay on top of the ads.
All right, so what did you miss, Des, from those ads? What did you miss? Did you care about the fly speed?
Oh yeah, because fly speed was.
I don't know if they're still stuck behind ads or if they were. I don't know. I can't see any of that really. Like it tells me that ads went, but I don't know. Like
it popped up, but I don't. I wish. Oh, maybe I should log into my alt account sometimes and just have that one view the ads just so I know when they're up.
Des, let us know when you're back.
If they can't hear us, I'm gonna type it in chat.
Hey, Hecate gifted a sub to Des. Let's go. Thank you so much, Hecate. Appreciate you.
We appreciate
Dangerous to go it alone. You take one of these with you.
Dang straight. Take a sub with you.
For all your hard work. Oh, that's why. So get rid of the ads. Thank you.
Oh,
that's why. Hecate looking out.
OG, get out of here.
So Des should now be back with ad free. So Des, what was the last thing that you heard us say? We don't remember. I want to make sure that you get all of our
did you at least hear about the flying speed? Because we were just about to start talking about light awareness.
All right, now they're back. Yeah. Okay. So what was the last thing that you heard, Des? For your TLDR, I'm just going to speed through the things. We all hate ads. Yes, we do. Des, did you hear about the fly speed?
Yes. Flying. Thanks, Hecate, for the sub. All right.
You had just finished on speeds. Okay, cool. So you heard about the fly speed being reduced in order to get a boost to your defense. Cool. So with light awareness, we both really liked this, but the first thing that we thought of is it needed a limit, a cap on distance. So my first thought is I wanted to add an ability and then cap how far this happens. So overall, the ability that we came up with was light awareness is 1, you always know the direction of the sun. So no matter what, if it's below the horizon, if you're smart enough, you could tell when, dawn's about to be because you know how far below the horizon it is. If you're in a dungeon, you could tell just the general direction of the sun, so you could generalize what time of day it is. That would be kind of just a cool general idea, and it might even help you with navigation. If you're smart enough to know where it rises and where it falls, it could help you with north, south, east, west kind of concept. Then the second ability, going into what you had already had, was when in dim light and darkness, you always know where the nearest light source is within 300 feet. So 1, this is about a football field size. We felt that radius was the most beneficial without being too extravagant.
Sure.
Especially because you gave it dark vision. So the idea is that if you're walking through a densely lit forest, within a football field, if there's a campsite nearby or someone on the road with a torch. If you're in a dungeon, far before you turn that corner if there's something happening, right? So we thought that those would be much better limitations. Still gives you all of those perceptions, especially with a creature like this coming from the Shadowfell. It doesn't need a light source. It's going to be walking around in pure darkness, but it's going to immediately notice something that can't see in the dark because it has a light source. So being able to know where the sun is and being able to sense a light source within 300 feet, but only when in dim light or dark, just like your dark vision. We felt that was a good balance because that way during the day in sunlight, you're kind of bathed in light. It's too difficult, it's too, noisy. And then for other situations, let's say you're in a dark building and then there's like a beam of sunlight coming through a window. If you're in a shadow stepping away from that light, you'd be able to sense someone on the opposite side of the dark building with a torch. But if you walked into the sunlight, you wouldn't be able to. So just variations and dynamicism in the ability to use that is kind of where we came up with those ideas. Dusting. We really liked this idea, but overall, I thought that because we were leaning into the moth, my first thought was, well, taking the dust away from a moth usually means that they can't fly, but we thought it was too complex to do anything about that. So my suggestion was adding in a defect to where your character can't fly or use dusting when fully wet. So basically when you're fully submerged or in rain, basically full downpour, you wouldn't be able to use those two abilities. And this kind of led into an idea of DMs don't really ever utilize weather that great. And this would kind of remind DMs to use rain once in a while to actually affect your character. Dark vision was awesome. No changes there. I did suggest another ability though, because when I think of moth wings, I always know that the patterns are usually there to scare and try to scare off prey or predators. So I also thought of doing an additional ability that we called frightening flutter, where while flying, kind of like how you said dusting says while grounded, you can use furious flutter. This one would basically read while flying, you can use frightening flutter, and any creature, basically within like a zone that you would, flash your wings at, would get the frightened condition. So it's kind of similar to this. And we thought that would kind of be a cool ambush option. You fly at a creature, you do the frightening flutter, you frighten them, you land.
The way I kind of look at it, and tell me how you think about this, is it would almost affect an area like a cone.
Yes, like I was thinking of cone. Yeah, because it's kind of like a line of sight, but you have to see it in the right direction. So, and then you were mentioning that if that one would be a condition, you suggested, or if you wanted to go with that idea, we suggested changing dusting from poison condition to poison damage.
Yes.
Ooh, Cart, thank you so much for the fourth. Thank you so much for the 4 months. I appreciate you.
Yeah, hitting it good.
But we suggested if you do the frightening flutter, change dusting to the poison from poison condition to poison damage.
Yeah.
This way you have one ability that does a condition and then one that does damage, and then you have all your other abilities. So it's better stacking instead of trying to stack two conditions. You're getting to do two different things. And that was it. I think otherwise it was great. We loved everything about it. It makes me want more, and you made me want to really lean into all the things that make me think of moths. So I really think all of the added bonuses that we made aren't really super powerful. It's just that it makes me really feel like I am a moth from a different dimension or a different plane of existence. And I think it's kind of cool that some of your abilities only work in darkness.
Yeah.
And then some of your abilities don't work when you're wet. That just feels like a really unique way to give you and your the players at the table and the DM one more unique thing to throw on the table that will, just have it be raining during one battle. So you are just at a slight disadvantage.
Sure.
But then the next time you guys are in a canyon, you're fine, right? It's that whole thing of you can't always be great. And sometimes flight can make you feel like you're always being great.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just got to be able to go up against a challenge that's directed at you.
I think again, a lot of DMs get scared away from creatures that can fly. And I think that's a great way to like help them mitigate that, do stuff indoors when you're outdoors, make them wet. Like, who knows? Somebody just dropped a bucket of water on you just before you went out the door. Oh, sucks.
Right. So that was the TLDR. That was the quickest way that I could explain it. But yeah, loved it. 8 out of 10. What is their new average? If you could look that up for them.
Oh yeah, let me actually post that in.
It was great.
Discord.
I thought it was really cool. For me to get into High Point, I just want more. I really, really want more. And it just makes me just want to not be a moth, but you know what I mean? It just, it really makes me realize that a lot of the time when we humanoid things, we humanize them. And I don't mean humanize on a social level. Humanize as when we dull out those complexities that truly make them what they are, right? Like that was the first thing. I know that was a little bit pedantic and a little bit too IRL, but when I heard the dusting thing, the first thing I thought of was, I remember growing up and being told like, don't touch the wings of a moth because, while it's dust, like, oh, there's dust, but that makes it so they can't fly. And that dust also prevents their wings from getting wet. And if their wings do get wet, they can't fly. So that's where I'm like, I know that from just like regular shit I've learned in my life. But when I heard this lore, when we were just talking about how it's somewhere between the Feywild and the Shadowfell and how they essentially infiltrated the Prime Material Plane, how they started to learn about it, there's just something that makes me feel that if it's just a humanoid that can fly, it feels too much like it's from here. It feels too much like, okay, that's just too beneficial for us, right? But when you think of something that is from somewhere that when you think about something that came from somewhere else, that is currently somewhere it doesn't belong, I feel like it needs to feel like it doesn't belong. It needs to have things that don't jive with us. Like we talked about the face. That face just doesn't jive with what we expect out of a humanoid. Sure. But it deserves to look odd. It deserves to make you feel uncomfortable.
And like I said, it kind of goes back to that like almost alien type thing. And like, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly.
Like, but that's the instinct that I got from it. It's like, oh, you're less, conformative is the wrong word, but like that's kind of the vibe when it comes to like everything else. Everything else has got like, what generally we as humans would find is potentially attractive, whether male or female. It's like something that I can relate to, but this is something outside of that. But I almost feel like, especially because of the lore, talking about how monstrous they originally are, not necessarily monstrous, but like potentially scary and just different that they are, and what a lot of them are very animalistic. And we were talking about having actual creature stat blocks for these things.
Right, like versions of them that didn't evolve with the same intelligence.
So well for the fact that they look foreign to us.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted the things to feel foreign. Like, having a fly speed's cool, but having an erratic fly speed is not something people would know how to use, right? And having that light awareness is, I think, supremely unique, but not having it just be direction sense. Just simply, the direction of the sun is way different of an explanation and a different level of an RP. And a different level of your intelligence, especially if you're playing one of these creatures who is new to the Prime Material Plane. Let's say you're like, no, I don't want to be one that's been here for a while. I want to be like a fresh start. Maybe that doesn't help you with direction sense because all you know is the sun, but you don't know what north, south, east, and west are.
Right.
So there could be so much extra flavor to be had with the RP for the player. There's so much more enrichment that you could have because it doesn't feel right. Because falling off of a ship or falling off of a boat into some water suddenly renders half your abilities useless. That doesn't happen with most characters. And I know that a lot of people would say, well, that feels bad. True, in random situations it does, but that's kind of, I think, one of the things that D&D's kind of gotten away from is making some feel bad moments feel good. Like sometimes it's good to feel a challenge. Sometimes it's good to go up against something that's directed at you.
Sure.
And we've gotten away from that, right? This idea that players create characters without their DMs and DMs create games without their players. We're no longer playing things that are built for each other. We're just throwing things at each other to see who's more powerful.
You just had a TikTok talking about planning for a heist and like how you prefer to be a part of the planning experience rather than walking out of the room and having them plan without you, so they can kind of like sideswipe you as you go into this thing, because you're not necessarily an opponent to the player, you're a part of the storytelling process. So
yes,
you being there for that is valuable.
Yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed the VOD. It's not very long, but I think we got into some really good details, especially at the lore stage.
Sure.
We went through some pretty good aspects of like the different creatures and how to use it.
Agreed.
When we talked about the lore, so hopefully you'll like that. Before we guys close up, you still got content. You've still got content. So before we close up, do we still have content from Des? There's still a backlog of their content, or do they need to submit new stuff?
For Des, I do have a lot of stuff waiting in the wings for them. Let's see.
Des got stuff. And what's going on, Soul? We'll end it with whatever idea you got.
I've got a harpy. I've got a something folk, fabry folk. I'm not sure what that is yet. I've got plenty from I've got background,
but don't let it stop you from sending more.
Bunch of races, but please, yes, definitely send me more. But yeah, no, I've got at least, hold on, let me look.
Don't let it stop you.
12 unreviewed submissions by you, and we just reviewed your 9th submission.
Okay. Wow. 9 submissions, man. But I mean, we have been doing this for 2 years, 177 episodes. Half of those are reviews. It's crazy.
Big facts, man. I'm telling you.
That's like what, 70? No, that's close to 90 reviews. I mean, not all from the community, but.
Oh yeah, no, it's over 100.
Oh wait, we've done over 100
It's
now?
definitely over 100, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right, because you started converting over. I think the leaderboard no longer has non-community submissions now, right?
Correct.
Oh, so that's actually a big update for anybody who wants to know about like their averages when compared to other submissions. Like if you ever want to know your average compared to the leaderboard average, that will now have been changed because we got rid of all of the stuff that wasn't from the community. So all of that stuff is now off of the big average.
Yes.
Sweet. Wow, 26 subclasses, 10 races, so on. You will keep us fed for a while. That's fine with me, because
I love that.
Until we get new followers that get new stuff, that's fine. But Soul, what is that idea of yours? We will end with your idea. We'll end at the 2-hour mark. It's fine. It's a Monday. We can end a little early.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
I think we're gonna do that drop off anyway, right?
Oh,
are we gonna try to do that today? So that'd
be
down for better. That. That's kind of another reason why I'm not upset that we're cutting out early. All right, so let's see. So the idea by Soul, you two, assuming us.
Okay.
So not you two. You play 2 characters. So here's the idea. You play 2 characters. One, the quote unquote main character of the 2, and the second, the main's regalia weapon. Not a sentient weapon. It's built like any other character, except it made a pact with the main, and now has an ability that allows it to change forms into a weapon and back to base. So like whatever it was, right? So you're doing that. So I love that idea. I say run with it. I already have a concept in that from High Point. I base my mechanics off of Soul Eater.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched that anime, go watch Soul Eater. That's how my mechanics
another
work.
Anime I just found that does something very similar.
Nice.
It's weird because this.
Well, I should say it's a combination of Soul Eater and Bleach.
Oh,
because how
fair.
bankais work. But
Fair.
bankais aren't the same thing.
Yes.
So because I have sentient weapons can become bankais if they can become powerful enough.
Is there any Soul Eater weapon that's a bankai?
Now you're starting to ask the right questions. Man, you got ahead of me. Because Soul Eaters are completely different. They're not called Soul Eaters, but essentially there is a society that work to train duos, and part of the duo would become the weapon. And haven't really figured out how to make it a playable yet, because it's very difficult to make a playable weapon. So I don't know if that's always going to be an NPC, and then that's just a lot of work to everyone who wants to play that. And then it's how do you, outside of them just being a weapon you can talk to or a weapon that can turn into a role-playing PC, what benefits do you get by them being your weapon versus any other weapon?
Right.
And how do you make that balance? I've loved this idea, and I have it for roleplay purposes for NPCs.
Sure.
But making that playable has been so difficult. But yes, I absolutely love the idea, Soul. Noragami, not actually familiar with Noragami. Are you familiar with that, Noragami?
Is that an anime?
I'm assuming. They said they were thinking Noragami with this idea. But yeah, so in terms of the way that I've done it, if you just want to do like the Soul Eater way that I've done it, is more about someone becoming the weapon. The bankai aspect is more of just a sentient weapon, has nothing to do with like a playable character. But I have thought of aspects, because similar to Soul Eater, I've liked the idea that the weapons would have their own personalities. They'd have their own abilities that would be activatable, but not by the wielding character.
Okay.
So it is also a relationship, in an tandem relationship kind of thing, and being able to work together, do tactics. I've also liked the idea of, because the weapon can shapeshift when they're in full form, similar to what you see in the anime, being able to partially transform into their own weapon. So like if they're a blade, part of their hand can become part of the blade or something like that. Being able to have their weapon be thrown, turn into the person, be thrown onto a rooftop, run across the rooftop.
Kind of like they do in Naruto, like throwing them as a shuriken, and they pop up behind the dude. They replace themselves with the...
like they like transform into it. Yeah. So similar to that, like you would throw your weapon onto like a rooftop, it would transform, it would run across the rooftop, jump off, and then transform back into the weapon, but keep that momentum.
Yeah.
So those are the ways that I've used it in like cinematics. Like that's the idea of what they do, but how to really turn that into something a player could tangibly use is the hard part.
Very much so.
Because it makes tangible, it makes cinematic sense. But what does that mean in the context of mechanics?
Yeah.
So that's where those things. So it's a lot more of a RP base, just to enrich the world. But I do eventually want to add those as aspects.
It's very interesting, because I do that kind of stuff a lot. Like that one scene that I told you about with some of my players, where I had them go up against this vampire, and they like football tackled them, feet, head, decapitated this vampire. Like, how would the players do that mechanically if they wanted to do something like that when they got high enough level? Like that type
and this
of
is
stuff
where
it's like...
I have a solution for that, because this is why I like dynamic initiative, because it provides more opportunities for that, and B is why I've always allowed individual characters or players to get customized feats, because I've been working up to when I have players that play enough together, which it just doesn't happen all the time.
Sure.
But the idea of making combined feats, like group feats, something that says, when you two are on the same initiative, or I don't mind sometimes when it's like when they're within one initiative or on the same initiative, we can do XYZ. And that could be anything from, if you two are like let's say you have two like rapier fires, let's say they're like the two duelists or two pirates. When like I've thought about things where it's like, when back to back, you can use each other's reactions to do opportunity attacks. So essentially you have two, or
interesting.
So
when collectively
flanking,
you have two, but either of you can use it.
Yeah. I've had other ones where it's like, when flanking, you can, as a bonus action, have your other one attack. So like it's your turn, but I'm behind your target. So you attack your target and then use your bonus action, and then I attack the target.
Oh,
shit like that.
On
like,
my turn.
Yes. So, or I've like some other ones where the flanking one, the oldest one I ever came up with was when you have the same initiative and you are on either side of an enemy, you can do the shove action and knock them prone by the other guy doing the whole like I'm getting on my hands and knees, and you push them over, or you just trip them, but stuff like that. I just the thing is there are times when you can do one-off cinematics where like the players say I really want to do this, and I'm like, you know what, in this one case, adrenaline, the situation, the lighting, all of these things come together and you do it. But there are other times where I can see that they want to have a cool thing that they do, and so my solution is to give them a group feat that they are allowed to work on. And sometimes it'll cost, like maybe it costs both of them a proficiency point.
Sure.
Or it might just be you guys can work on it, and if you can do it 3 times successfully, I'll let you just do it without rolling. Or if you guys can do it 3 times before your next level up, something like that. I'll usually give like some sort of reason to why they have to learn it. But I love this idea. I think that group feats are something that D&D has always been missing.
Yeah.
This idea to just partner with your people and feed off of what each other do instead of just do things one after the other. Having some characters be able to like do the thing where at the end of an attack, I take a knee because the person behind me is the next initiative and they run up and jump off my back and then get extra distance. And then, you know what I mean? Like that shit.
Yeah.
Or being able to say, hey, I have an axe that like this, like my other character can't actually wield, but we've learned that, by physics, you can, reorient something. So imagine having a thing where it's like, if we all happen to have the same initiative, I can throw my axe up, you can jump off his back, grab the axe, and normally you can't wield it, but in the air,
all I gotta do is bring it down. I just need to direct it and bring it down.
So imagine you could just toss it up, and then that creature who has better aim can then like throw it across the battlefield like a ricochet.
Like a wild alley-oop with a freaking axe.
That's what I'm saying. These are things that I've always wanted to have players work on. But that it starts with getting players to do, their own abilities first. By the way, there has been an update in High Point. So do you remember how the proficiency points were used?
To a certain extent, yes.
So, by the book, you get certain weapon proficiencies, certain non-weapon proficiencies. Sure. And then I was trying to add into calculation to give like some extra bonuses just to fill in, just to make it better.
Sure.
To make you have some like early game advancements. I'm going to change that to where you still get the base, you still get your normal weapon and non-weapon proficiencies, but the additional ones you earn that are based off of your stats that you get, that calculate out.
Sure.
Those are going to be turned into what I'm calling free feat points. So usually you'll end up with like 1 to 3 when you create a character.
Okay.
And the idea is, I don't know if I'm actually going to cap it at when you can use them. Like you can only use, I'm thinking like only use them at level ups. So you kind of decide when to use them.
Okay.
But the idea is that these are going to be the points that you get to use to create those custom feats that you just get to do. Basically your own at-will ability. It's like Dov's ability to parkour at a bonus with your stand would be like one of those. Like you're going to have a set number of these. So as you level up, you're just going to eventually be like, hey, that thing I want to do this thing. And it's not really like a thing that D&D does, but I want to be able to do X, Y, Z. You can burn that point, and now that's just something you can do. It's like a full-on custom feat that I want to allow. It's going to just, be built into what your character can do. So it's not going to be like, you're just going to make anything up, right?
Now,
it's going to have to be based on your character
build. Because it's like, say... If I have like more than one of these I want to create, or like different variations of the same thing that I want to be able to do, are each one of them going to require their own?
Yeah. So like, so for instance, Vixie, her character, she had 2, so she's spent 1 so far.
Mm-hmm.
She has the ability to, because she's ambidextrous and can fight with both hands cleanly, she always fights with her offhand. She fights standard with both, right? But she always just fights with her offhand. Mm-hmm. And she loves like the Princess Bride movie and the idea of I am not left-handed. She really loves that thing. So she burnt her free feat point. And so now, once per encounter, she can swap hands and do the I am not left-handed, switch to her on hand, and the next round she gets advantage on her attacks. So her next, and in High Point, you get multiple attacks per round. So with her main weapon, she gets like 4 or 5 attacks in a round. So all of those get advantage.
I love that.
And it's just once per, and the reason why it's once per encounter is because even though it's not once per enemy, because anybody who sees you do it is no longer going to be surprised that you can do it.
Sure.
So it's once per encounter to inflict the idea that if someone's seen you do it, you can't surprise them again.
Sure.
But it's just that it's she loved that idea so much that I'm just like, well, why can't you do that? But how do you make that mechanic? Well, we'll turn it into a feat that you can just say that's what you do and this is how it works. Now, there are other times where I just let you describe what you want to do and it's a one-off. Sure. But that is something that she just wants to be able to pull from memory, that she doesn't have to think about every time, that she says, I can do this and I need it. And there's no questions. Now we know for here on out, and then it's hers. Because it's a free point, it's not like it's a high point feat that you can take.
Sure.
It's not like anybody who pulls up a rapier can't take this feat. This is hers. This is her character's feat. You would have to burn.
Very theoretically, if somebody else went through the exact same process that she
if they wanted
did,
to, but they would have to burn their own free feat.
Sure.
But this isn't like just something that you could make in your own build. It's more of it's not designed to be a universal one. It's designed to be as an example of what you can make. So yeah,
right.
Those are what they're meant to be. It's not like I just want to be able to do this really weird, powerful thing, but like, how does that make sense? But for her being a rapier fighter, and being ambidextrous, it's like, oh no, that's an awesome feat. I'll give you a bonus to doing that.
Right.
And I don't think it should just be on your next attack. I think it should be your whole round. Anything you want to do that round, because that person just like, they were fighting a left-handed person.
And even if you attack multiple people, like you're surrounded, all these guys are going to get.
And if you know anything about rapier fighting, like that's a whole different fighting style to fight someone that just changed, and it's like a surprise round of attack. Like, but it's fun, right? It's simple, it's fun, and I didn't give it to her. She created it, and I think that makes it feel so much more special. Like it makes you feel like that's mine. Like I asked for it, I got it, and so that's why I wanted to create point value for it. So instead of people feeling like they had to earn it, or like it might not be achievable, I kind of wanted to build it into my actual mechanical system of this is something that everybody gets, so people really feel attached to their characters. So yeah, that's another update in High Point that just happened recently.
Interesting. Very interesting.
All right, so Desmar, we got a small request in the future. If their stuff comes up on the schedule, would it be possible to get a DM the day before? That way they can make sure they clear the evening. Well, when we do post it, like when we do one, we do post it, and then we do try to do it on the same day. We could try to do day before. I don't know if we can guarantee that.
So, Des, I want to make sure, because I believe... Because one of the things that we try to do is I will try to update the schedule every day, or like the day, like today, right now. I'm going to update the schedule for next week. And I was actually going to talk to you about that, because I finally was able to like look at the Moth.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really think we should do both of them as one. Okay. Looking over them, they almost look like the same stat block. It just looks like two different forms of the same creature.
Perfect. That's fine.
So that's my thought process. But to answer your question, Des, I will. You should be pinged, and I want to make sure you actually got.
I think the ping just needs to be closer to the date, so not the day of. It's It's just with schedules being the way that they are. So I don't want to say that we won't do it. I just don't know if with our schedules, if we're going to be able to guarantee that we'll always be doing that, but we definitely will try to do it the day of.
What about reminding them the Friday before? I mean, I feel like it'd be easier for me to ping them the Friday before. Would that work for you, Des? If instead of pinging you on Sunday before a Monday, if I pinged you on the Friday on our Friday stream, hey, by the way, you're gonna have your
because we usually end the stream letting people know what we're gonna do on Monday, and if it comes up, we might be able to do that for you. So let us know if that's doable, and then we'll try to work on that. And then last thing from Soul, my thought for the connection between the main and regalia was a bonus action to change into the weapon and immediate action reaction from the main. Interesting. See, I feel like it really just depends in terms of like using actions. It just depends on what the weapon can do both in and out of weapon form.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not really a reason to force the main to cause an action for the shift, right? Like the main's idea is like you grab their hand and then they shift into your weapon and you're swinging the weapon already. So I don't feel like it should take a main's action.
I genuinely feel like for the user, it should be the same as them using any other weapon, right? So like if I wanted to pull out my sword, it's a free item interaction for me to pull out my sword and then I can just start attacking with it, right? As long as you're not trying to do too much, same thing with this thing. As long as he is able to, on my turn, use its reaction or something like that to transform, which I think is a great, say if they use their reaction already to hit somebody, they're not going to be able to turn into my weapon this turn. But if they haven't used it yet, boom, weapon time, let's go.
Yeah. That says that they have a lot of ping, so it just gets lost sometimes. So the closer, the better, because at least it'll be fresh in their minds.
That's fair. That is very fair.
We understand that. So I'm gonna end it with one really weird idea for everybody to just chew on for the rest of the month or for the rest of the week. Because I don't know where my mind went with this when you were just talking, but between all of us talking, especially about like the weapon, the creature weapon. When me saying like you grab their hand like when they're in their human form and then they change just into their weapon and you pull and like you're just holding the weapon. I don't know why my mind went to this, but imagine you have a golem like partner, right? They essentially are like this version, like the NPC, right? But imagine they are also your armament. So like there's this. Like, let's say you have another person, like, just like you and your partner, and they are essentially kind of like a low key, very low level monk. They can just like, hand to hand fight, do some basic shit. But let's say like you look like you're unarmed, but let's say it's time to go fight. So you walk over to them and like you grab their hand and you think, you're going to like, they're going to like shift into a weapon and then you're going to use them. But what you do is like you pull on their left arm, like you grab their hand, pull on their left arm, and that becomes like a saber. And now they're still the creature.
They're still them, but they're
one-armed.
One less arm.
But then you can you can throw it back to them and they can catch it and they'll put their arm back. But then you go grab their other arm and pull that off and it like becomes a spear. Maybe one leg becomes a club.
Interesting.
So imagine you have this like homunculus thing where you create the personality, you create what they look like, but as you level up, you get to assign a different weapon to different body parts, like it's an armament.
Sure.
So like imagine like you can also get to a point to where it's like you can take off their head and it's like a ranged weapon, or maybe that's like an actual helmet. And then like if you take off both their arms, they can go together and that's like a spear. And then their
it's almost like you're
chest
a freaking
becomes like a shield.
A Power Ranger with all their Zords and stuff.
Almost, yeah. But I'm just thinking like imagine, I don't know why that's such a weird idea, but I'm just thinking if you could have multiple weapons, but they all put together just to make an NPC you can walk around with, but you just grab a different body part. And you would just do like two arms, two legs.
That's kind of cool.
And then they could just walk around. So you just grab one of their legs and then they're just hopping around, but they have like good balance. So they're almost like a Warforged. Warforged, that's your armament. There you go. There's your idea for the week. Try to figure out how to make that work. I don't mind that. Golem that can turn into armor or weapon sounds like Mercurialist Artificer. Yep. All right. So take that for the rest of the week. We will be back on Friday. This Friday, we are going to be doing one-shot rivals. So we are going to be developing that idea. So we're actually going to be doing the development for the rule sets, how the rounds are going to work, how the actual sessions are going to work, how we're going to integrate chat, and we're probably going to do a couple of the character builds just to flesh out that process so we can get closer to actually doing that on chat, because I am very, very interested in doing one-shot rivals as one of our first gaming with chats.
Yes, I think that's going to be so cool.
So yeah, walking, talking, enchanted armor. Basically, yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking. So, come here on Friday, and then what are we doing next week? What's next Monday?
Next Monday is going to be the moth.
Okay, the other moths.
Is it a moth?
Is it the two moths that you were talking about? The two that need to go together?
Yes.
Right, they're moth creatures. The actual like.
Correct. Well,
okay.
Why am I tripping on what they're called? I was just looking at it.
You were just looking at
frost moth.
The frost moth.
From Mothkin to frost moth.
All right. So
I bet.
And the week after that.
And the week after that.
And the week after that. And the week after that. And then the week after that. Give them the list for the next. Is it just more moths? Or are we just full of moths now?
Moths for days. Let's look. Don't know if I have that far planned ahead.
We usually don't.
I do what I can. All right. I do what I can. Let's see. That's gonna be Hecate is our moth.
It's Moth Month.
And so after that is gonna be
May is Moth Month.
May's Moth Month. Sentience.
Yep. All right. So next Monday will be more moths, and then Sentience from Soul will be Monday after that.
Yes.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this first stream of Moth Month.
First stream of Moth Month.
I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. So yeah, we will be back on Friday developing more of that. So it is going to be a very chill, non-D&D like themed on Friday. It's just going to be us actually developing all of the rule sets and how we're going to do the gaming with chat. And developing the character builds. We'll be, looking at Marvel Rivals and all of that. So if that
you guys
sounds
are
fun,
down to
join
participate, we can experiment with actually
like
doing
the queue
stuff
system,
queue system,
Yep.
running stuff.
Figure out if we're going to do it via Discord or a VTT. Try to figure out that too. So yeah, we'll be doing all of that on Friday. So join us for that if that sounds fun. You'll get your Ben 10 creatures figured out. Awesome. Let's do another moth. All right, y'all. But other than that, I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. I hope you have a great week ahead of you. We will be back on Friday as always. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Cheers.
Deuces, my friends.